Now, just in case you weren't aware, around here we love to do an easy, glowing, everyday, natural makeup look. That is my forte. That is my favorite type of makeup to do. And we have picked up many, many different tips and tricks along the way. There have been many different tweaks that we've made to our everyday makeup routines. And I feel like now more than ever, at the ripe old age of almost 32 years old, I have in fact perfected my everyday makeup look, which if you haven't seen already, I already filmed my everyday little 10-minute makeup routine. But I wanted to break down the tips specifically because so often when I film makeup videos, you guys, first of all, request that I film closer to the camera, so fair. And this is also for those people who want a little bit more of a longer breakdown between each tip. So I decided to gather 10 of my top tips, my most game-changing tips that I have made for my everyday makeup routine that have had the biggest impact. So for those of you who are looking for specific little takeaways to add to your everyday makeup routine, this video is for you. So I'm gonna zoom you in nice and close. I'm gonna need you to sit down, grab your makeup brushes, and let's get to it. Now, tip number 1 is to skip the primers. And I think that this had the biggest impact on my everyday makeup because I used to pile on so many different products onto this face. I used to go in with my skincare, which I would be using like 3 or 4 serums and creams at a time, no problem, plus a sunscreen, plus a little glowing primer, plus an additional little hydrating makeup primer, and then I did just like so many different layers. So the best thing that I ever did was simplifying my skincare routine, which we've talked all about on my channel, and I pretty much just removed primers as a whole, as the entire category. I don't really use primers anymore, and I just use the skincare, the necessities, if you will. And every once in a while, I'll go in with something a little bit glowy or bronzy if I feel like my skin needs a pick-me-up, but for the most part, just going in with my skincare and straight into my foundation or whatever base product I'm using that day. And that has prevented so much product overuse. My makeup hardly ever pills anymore. It blends in so seamlessly, and it also lasts all day. And it's undetectable in the earth, in the world, and in the natural sunlight. So it has made like the biggest change in my face makeup overall. And so now, instead of layering up 17,000 different products and different primers, I focus on my skincare and making sure that my skin is happy to start with, so that the canvas that we're putting makeup onto is taken care of. I'm gonna go ahead and use my beloved Haus Labs foundation. I mix these 2 shades together because I am kind of in between these 2 right now. I'm using shade 40, which is my more pale shade, and then just a little bit of 110. So I pumped the foundation into my hand, and we're now gonna go into tip number 2, which is to prime the brush. And this tip was brought into our world by the lovely, darling Katie Jane Hughes. And this is technically something that I've been doing kind of, but the actual act of priming the brush and literally scrubbing the product into the bristles of your brush and using that method to apply tiny, tiny layers onto the skin, it will help you to use less product, but it will also make sure that the product is undetectable and it just looks like your skin. And when you're using these tiny little layers and building up, you can kind of tailor whatever base product you're using to the coverage that you're looking for. So even if you have a super full coverage foundation, you can use these tiny little layers that are pressed and primed into your brush and build that up. Instead of just pouring the product directly onto your face and having way too much product, you're gonna see it, it's gonna look cakey, you're gonna have those brush strokes, and you have a higher chance of pilling and balling up all over your face. So prime the brush and use small layers, and you're gonna have the best, most natural makeup of your life. So that's one side of the foundation applied. This is the side without, and you can see it's just given me an overall more even skin tone. It's covered up some of that redness, covered up a few remnant spots, and you can't see it. You can't tell that I'm wearing makeup. It looks completely natural. That's another thing I love about this foundation in particular. It is magical. It has that very natural, dewy skin finish. I love it so much. And then having a nice, big, dense, fluffy blending brush like this. This is the IT Cosmetics number 7 brush. Oh, I love it so. And as I go ahead and do the rest of my base makeup, I'm just gonna take that same principle. I'm gonna prime the brush with all the rest of my base layers, and I'm just gonna softly build up the tiny little layers of makeup onto my face. So right now I'm going in with my bronzer, and that's just an additional tip. I'm not technically including that as part of the video, but if you wanted to find some kind of little bronzer contour duo, something that looks very sheer and natural on the skin, oh, you are never gonna go back. I find it really hard to go back to my standard like contour and bronzing products now that I've used something like this that's kind of a nice hybrid. It's removed an additional product from my routine, and it also just looks so natural on the skin. I'm also using my same foundation brush to apply this, which I haven't done a lot, but I'm really enjoying just that melting in with the rest of my base makeup. I'm going to do the same with my concealer. This is the Armani Luminous Silk Concealer, and I'm just going to take a little bit of that into the palm of my hand, and I'm taking a smaller brush and just priming the concealer into there. And I'm gonna do some very light layers of the concealer. And I have a lot of darkness and discoloration just on the inner parts of my eyes here. So I do like to focus a bit of concealer under there. A lot of people will tell you not to take the concealer directly up, all the way up on the under eye, and just try and keep most of the product kind of under the line of your little under eye bags. And then some people swear by their correctors and taking it all the way up. So I think it just depends on what your preference for your everyday makeup is. But for me, I get a lot of redness right here on my cheeks. Could it be from my constant application of products? I don't know. I've just always had quite pink cheeks and quite a natural flush that gets very red and intense throughout the day. So I like to apply a little bit more concealer here because that's where I just want a bit more of that focus coverage. So I'm using really light tapping motions, and as I'm priming the brush and taking the product off of the palm of my hand, it's allowing me to not go overboard on the product, which is what I've done so much in the past. And I'm really gonna try and make an effort to, like, fingers crossed, I'll do my best to just never apply directly from the applicator onto my face again. I'm gonna try and stick to this priming the brush method because it has been having such a huge difference in my everyday makeup and how natural my makeup looks. And then again, not going overboard on the product. And that just makes your makeup look better and last longer. Why is it so hard for us to comprehend? It's so simple. I'm also taking that onto my chin because I also get a lot of redness on my chin, and then I do a little bit on my forehead, which I'm kind of discovering more and more that I don't actually ever really need that additional coverage on my forehead, so I don't know why I do it automatically. I'm also not necessarily doing any highlighting there, but I think it's just habitual at this point. I sometimes like to take my finger and just press that into the inner corners of the eye just to melt any of the additional product in there and try to prevent as much creasing as possible. You guys, I can't get over this base makeup routine. Truly, I'm so obsessed. I love how natural it is, and it's so glowing, and it lasts so beautifully throughout the day. So my third tip is to find your blush shade. And I say this annoyingly because I know that there's so many people who don't really believe in the whole color analysis mumbo jumbo type of life. But I do think that most of us naturally gravitate towards colors that we feel the best in. And so I've met a lot of people over the years that say they don't like blush, they don't like wearing blush, oh, blush doesn't look good on me. And I firmly believe that there is a blush shade for everybody. I believe that everybody has that color that brings so much life into their face and instantly makes your makeup look better. For me, that was the discovery of Nudestix Bareback. That was that moment. This was my aha, like, oh my word, I don't know how I'm gonna ever use any other blush again. I've been screaming about it from the rooftops. This is the shade for me. I felt like my makeup became complete once I discovered this. And I realized it's just one of those really beautiful, very natural muted pinks, edging a little bit more on that cool tone shade. And there are a lot of blushes that I do love to wear that are just more on that cool tone shade. And that's for me in my natural skin. When I'm most pale, I feel like those types of shades suit me the best. When I've got a little tan on and I want to feel a little bit warmer and summery, obviously then I'm going for the oranges, and I feel like those bring out the colors in my eyes so nicely. Those complement me then. But when I'm pale, it's Bareback. So find a shade that works for you and it will be a game changer, I promise you. I also just want to say I'm not priming the brush with this one. I do just take it straight from the stick and I put it onto my face, but I've done this 1,000 times with this shade and I've never felt bad about it, okay? I will also say that blush placement makes a huge difference. I filmed that Dua Lipa Met Gala look the other day and I put the blush like right here on the center kind of apples of my cheeks and brought it onto my nose, and I didn't bring it all the way up, and I kind of loved how it looked. I don't know how I'm feeling yet today, but I'm going to apply it. I just want to show you this shade and what this does to me. I don't know what it is, but there's something about this color that when I put it on my face, I feel instantly complete. I feel like it makes me look more awake. I feel like it gives me a natural, healthy glow. And even though I do have a natural pink and red flush to my cheeks, technically I could just let that live and do its thing and not use an additional blush, but I like my skin tone to look even. I'm making everything look clean and glowy and crispy, and then I want to add a little bit of very specifically placed flush back into my face, and my redness goes like all the way down and I don't really like that. Anyway, it's not too pigmented, it's not too crazy, it just adds a little kiss of something, some glow and life back into the skin. I am telling you, when you find your blush shade, you will know because you won't be able to do your makeup without it. And when I apply blush, I do always think of that like natural sun-kissed placement where if I was to get a little sunshine, maybe get a little natural burn, it would probably hit across the tops of my cheeks and on my nose. So I always do put a little blush on my nose and I just very softly pat it across. And I think for me, this is the most natural looking way to apply the blush. You can also take it onto the tops of the forehead. I'm not adding any additional product, but you can just slightly touch your brush up here. You could also put it onto your eyes, do that entire like monochromatic look. Either way, you'll have a blush placement that works for you. And when you find your shade, you'll never go back. Yeah. Tip number 4 is to use a setting spray. I know there's a lot of people who don't believe in setting sprays. Some people never use them. I was first introduced to setting sprays or similar products when I started working at MAC back in 2014. That was my first adventure and introduction to my beloved MAC Fix Plus. And this is like a historical, monumental product in so many people's lives. And it's because sometimes you can sit and let some time pass and let your natural sweats kind of do their thing and your makeup will soak into your face. But if you want that instant finishing little kiss of something, you use a little setting spray or something like a MAC Fix Plus and it just melts everything together. It just has a little kiss of magic. I don't know what it is, but there have only been a handful of times where I have accidentally forgot to pack my setting spray when I've been traveling, and when I don't have it, I just feel like my makeup doesn't look the same. Whether or not it has any impact on the actual longevity of your makeup is only to be tested and seen. I can't speak for that, but how my makeup looks and how it's finished is largely impacted on whether or not I have a good setting spray with me. It's just how I feel on the inside. You're allowed to feel differently, but for me, a setting spray is a must. And it is a game-changing product. So this is the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. I also have the Benefit Professional setting spray that I love. There's so many good ones on the market. Just find one that works for you. Find one that doesn't make you sneeze. Find one that doesn't irritate your skin. And you just want it to have that melting finishing effect when you spray it onto your face. So I like to do it before I apply any of my powders. And then sometimes I'll apply it after as well. You can do whatever you want. I would like to bathe in this at all times if I could, so. I'm gonna let that sit and soak into the skin and help all of the base products melt together while I go ahead and do my eyes and my eyebrows. Usually, if I'm following my preferred procedure, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna let all the base products sit and do their thing while I go ahead and do the rest. So I'm gonna use my brow gel to set in my brow hairs. And then we can go ahead and do the eyes. Now my top tip when it comes to eye makeup is to go lighter than you think. And this is a very recent epiphany that I have had when I filmed the video where I was following along with one of the Makeup by Mario masterclasses, and he used the lightest shade all over the lid, and I've never been so gobsmacked in my life. I have a few of my favorites, like the Armani 22M that I love to put on my eyes and wear my everyday tints. I also love to wear whatever bronzer I'm wearing, especially powder bronzer, on my eyelids, and I think that's a good, foolproof, monochromatic way to approach your eye makeup. But when Makeup by Mario went in with one of the lightest shades from his palette and used that as his all over the lid shade, and we did a smoky eye like that, I was like, oh my word, go lighter than you think when it comes to that all over shade. For so many years, and for most of the time that I've been doing my makeup, I would instantly go right into those medium tone kind of brown shades and apply that all over the lid and be like, oh, this is totally fine. But for my everyday makeup, using these lighter ones that I think wouldn't do anything to my eyes, it has had a magical effect. So I'm gonna go ahead and dip into the third lightest shade from this Master Mats palette, and I'm gonna apply that all over the eyelid. I'm gonna do one side so that you guys can see the difference and see what I mean. These small little changes have the biggest impact on your everyday makeup. And when I'm doing my everyday makeup, I always do put a little bit of concealer or foundation onto my eyelid, just automatically when I'm blending it out there. But I don't always put something on. Like, I'm not always actively going out and putting an eye product on top of that. But it is so important, if you want to avoid any creasing of that product, which is naturally going to happen, to put something, whether it be your setting powder, a bronzer, or an eyeshadow. And when I used this light shade, my life felt changed forever. Can you see the difference? Because I barely can, but it's just enough that I was like, oh, you're telling me that I can have this magical setting moment, adding a little hint, a little touch of color to the eyes, and then also have it be barely detectable and feel like I'm wearing nothing? Yes, please. Go lighter than you think. The next tip is for those of us who hate to wear a liquid eyeliner, avoid it at all costs, but still want a little bit of something something on the lashes. And I realized that all of this time, I have been applying eyeliner into my waterline incorrectly. Now, I forget who exactly it was that I was watching on TikTok, but I had seen one TikTok video where the girl was like, don't apply the eyeliner directly into the waterline, because then she blinked and the eyeliner then went onto the lower waterline and it just looked like a mess, which is me every single time I put liner into my waterline. She was like, no, take a small little brush, which is what we have here, and you need to physically lift up your eyelid and you very softly apply that directly into the lashes. This is something that I have just learned, and again, I realized that I've been doing wrong my entire life, and my makeup life changed in that one very small moment. So I'm going to do one eye and I'm going to show you the difference. I look so funny when I do that. Sorry, I just need to yeet my eyelid into outer space. So can you see the difference? You can't even see that I've applied any product onto my eyes. I'm not losing any of my eyelid space. My eyes still look very open, but my lash line looks so much more defined. This was a life-changing tip for me. My smoky eyes will never be the same, and I will never look back. The next tip is to swap out your favorite mascara for a brown mascara. Now this is definitely a tip that I have been screaming about for a very long time, but in the recent months it's just been a solidified part of my everyday makeup routine, and it just gives that softer, more natural feel to your everyday makeup. And I'd also like to note here that not all mascaras are created equal, and I have tried so many different mascaras, and I had previously just accepted that flaking and raccooning under the eyes was just a natural part of wearing mascara, and I was like, okay, that's fair. It's been a long day. My makeup's been on all day. We're getting a little bit of flakiness and we're getting a little bit of smudging. Fine. No, there are now many mascaras that I have tried that have never flaked or smudged any morsel onto my face. And it has been magical and game-changing for me, and it has brought mascara back into my everyday makeup fold, because it used to frustrate me so much that I stopped wearing mascara altogether for my everyday makeup because it was irritating my eyes so much and I couldn't handle it anymore. And there are also so many mascaras that are such a pain in the butt to remove at the end of the day. So once I found the few mascaras that worked for me no matter what, no smudging, no flaking, they don't irritate my eyes throughout the day and they don't irritate my eyes when I'm removing them, those became my all-time favorites forever. And they all just happen to have brown mascara too. So some of my favorites, the Lancome Hypnose mascara. I also love the Tower 28 Drift mascara. Lisa Eldridge has her Kitten Lash mascara in brown. There's also the YSL Lash Clash mascara in brown. That's super beautiful. That's a little bit more volumizing, which I love. And then also the Estee Lauder mascaras are fantastic. So I've got lots of favorites. These are smudge proof, flake proof, look beautiful, lifting, volumizing on the lashes, and they don't bother me one bit. So now the eyes are done. We've got very soft, undetectable, sweet nothingness, just naturally emphasizing the eyes. I'm thrilled. And we're gonna go ahead and set in the rest of the makeup. And my next tip is to use a setting powder. Don't skip a setting powder. If you don't like using powder, like I used to not use powder, then you're doing it wrong or you're using the wrong product. So I will say there have been many powders that I've tried in the past. I have very, very dry, very sensitive skin, and some powders just do not work with me. They instantly suck all the moisture and life out of my face and make me look dry and flat. Two of the products that I continually have in my daily rotation are the Charlotte Tilbury setting powder and also more recently the Makeup of Mario loose setting powder. These are beautiful. And when I just want my easy everyday makeup, I don't want to fluff and faff with any loose powders and have it go everywhere. This has been my go-to for so long. And you need to adopt the less is more principle when it comes to applying your setting powder. So what I like to do, and what I've actually recently switched up, is using a larger, fluffier brush. I'm going to take some of the product in here. I'm going to remove most of it, just pat it into the palm of my hand and go ahead and apply the powder. I'm focusing on the center of my face where I do get the most oily looking. There's one thing to look glowy and there's another to look like shiny and oily, like I'm sweating. And I do sweat a lot throughout the day and I am a sweaty gal. So I want to apply the powder in those areas, but I also want to apply it where I've applied the concealer and the majority of my base products because I don't want it to move throughout the day. And I do get a lot of movement and motion in the ocean underneath my eyes and around my mouth. So I want to make sure that I'm applying a little bit of powder to set that in. And then also on my forehead where I do get very shiny. Sometimes I like to put it in my brows too, honestly. But when you remove any of the excess product from your brush and you just go in with the softest, lightest layer, that's where you're gonna have that beautiful natural magic. It's gonna do what you want. It's gonna remove that excess shine and it's gonna set that product in, but it's not gonna make you look dry and it's not gonna take away any of the glow from your base products. So you can see it's removed some of the shine, but it still looks so natural. I still have that nice glow left behind. And if I didn't use that, I'd look like a slimy mess in a few hours. So don't skip the setting powder, just find one that works for you. My next tip is to get yourself a cream highlighter. There's been a lot of cream highlighters that I have loved. There's a lot that I have in my collection. I think the Victoria Beckham Pearl highlight is the one that has been the most impactful for me. And since I introduced this a few years ago into my daily rotation and started wearing it more and more, I kind of altogether ditched my powder highlighters, which are still beautiful and they can still have their place. But when I kind of fully went ham into this, I never got more questions about my skincare routine in my entire life. When you put a succulent, juicy cream highlighter onto your skin, you will look like you have been blessed by the dewdrop gods of water, moisture, and wetness, and they have blessed your face with all of their glory. And your skin will look so radiant and glowy and healthy that people will stop you on the street and ask you what's on your face. They'll ask you if you just got a facial. They'll ask you what you changed in your makeup. They'll ask you what you're wearing because it is a show-stopping product. And it has made all the difference in how healthy and glowy my skin looks. So I'm gonna take this highlighter, I take a little bit with my finger, and I plop it right on top of my cheek. Boop, 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 boop. And even just applying the highlighter right there onto the tops of your cheeks, it will emphasize those sweet little cheeky cheeks of yours, make you look instantly more adorable, and make you look like the glowing goddess that you are. That's all I do. I literally take a little bit and I put it right there onto the tops of my cheeks, and that is the finishing touch no matter what else I have on my face. If I do this, it has an instant before and after, and it is the finishing touch. And my final tip is to find a lip liner that works for you. And I know that's easier said than done, and I know that so many of you have been along with me for the journey of the NYX Nude Beige because I found my lip liner shade in NYX Nude Beige. It was the one that just perfectly complemented the natural color of my lips, added a little bit of contour, added a little bit of natural shade, allowed me to define and emphasize my lip line without looking like I had anything on. This was like my perfect complementary shade to my lips. And then they changed it. They changed the formula and they changed the color. You guys know, it's been a whole thing. It makes me so sad every day and I love it endlessly. So if you can find a shade like this, something that complements the natural color in your lips, whatever the shade of your lips may be, it will change your life and you'll never be able to go back. So my lip shade in particular has quite a purpley mauve undertone, and this one so nicely adds to that. It almost is the same shade, but just a little bit deeper. So I can naturally add some fullness, redefine the shape, and make my lips look more complete, if you will, so you guys can see it's literally the perfect color. So over time, as we age, we can lose a lot of fullness, and also we can lose the definition and pigment in our lips. And for those of us who get treatments and also get lip injections over time, that can expedite those results. So just adding that fullness back, adding that definition. Oh my gosh, can you believe I never used to wear lip liner? Lip liner never used to be a part of my everyday makeup. And I bet that's true for a lot of you. And I will guarantee you that if you found the lip liner shade that works for you, you will also never go back, because sometimes if I put on a lip liner that's just a little bit too warm, a little bit too orangey, it instantly makes me look sick. I literally feel like all of my makeup looks incorrect and I need to wash my face and start all over again. But when you find the right lip liner shade that works for you, you can put it on and your face will be complete. I feel like I've been saying that for every tip, but it's true! It makes such a difference. The other tip with the lip liner that made a huge difference was to blend it into the rest of your lips. So don't just apply a line on the outside. I mean, unless you like that look, you do you, boo. If you want it to look the most natural, you can apply the product and then blend it in with either your finger or a brush into the rest of your lip. And this will make it look like there's no harsh lines. It will add that natural fullness and plumpness to your lips, and you'll have that natural looking shading. So look at that. Pair that with a complimentary lip gloss or lipstick. This one is the Bobbi Brown Bare Lilac to complement the kind of cooler mauvey undertones of my natural lip shade. Et voila, you have your go-to everyday natural lip combo. And so that, my friends, completes this makeup look, and that is a very comprehensive deep dive into the top 10 that have made the most life-changing, game-changing impact on my everyday makeup routine. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you think there are any other tips that I need to try or incorporate into my everyday makeup. And thank you so much for being here and for watching. I will see you all tomorrow for a new Everyday May video. Bye!